everyone, and welcome back to Ask Alexa Therapy Facebook Live. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. So excited to be here. Hope you're having an incredible weekend. I've been getting so many amazing questions from viewers. I'll be covering one of the questions later on in the program. If anyone has any questions or topics or show ideas for the Alexa Show or Ask Alexa Therapy Facebook Live, please send us a message on Facebook for Ask Alexa Therapy, or you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ask Alexa Therapy, or going to my website, askalexatherapy.com, or just send me an email at alexas29@aol.com. Thank you. Hi, Dean. Thanks for tuning in. Well, tonight I've been having so many questions, but I really wanted to answer this one question on air because I feel it's so relevant at this time. I'm feeling very depressed lately and not motivated, especially during COVID. More and more, I'm finding it harder to leave my house. I'm nervous about I'm not going to be able to break this negative cycle. What do you recommend? This is such a real relevant question because I think so many times, especially now during COVID, people are having issues and the motivation to leave the house, or because there's so many things that we can't do. So sometimes it's hard to find the things that we want to do. So our motivations might not be the same as it was pre-COVID. And I think even before COVID, if you're having some concerns with depression and motivation and lack of energy, right now might even be a more difficult time. So what I recommend is starting with something small. A lot of times I tell my clients, pick something that you can do on a daily basis. Even if it's just getting up every morning at 8 a.m. and walking around the block, going down the street to get a cup of coffee, going outside just for a couple of minutes, even if it's that makes a big difference. And little by little, as time goes by, I would have you add maybe 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, and then add a little bit more of distance. Maybe walk around the block twice. And I know sometimes people say, well, that sounds so irrelevant or so small. Where is that going to get me? I want to be going to the stores. I want to be talking to people. You have to start with the smaller steps to build yourself up, because so many times we have these huge goals and rationally we can say, I can accomplish this, but emotionally, if we're not in a good place, it's hard to get that first step. The anticipation of it is usually a lot harder than the actual event. So that's why I always say start with something small so you know you can achieve it. Even if it's just walking outside the door and then going back in and closing the door. That's fine, and that's an accomplishment. And I'd have you doing that more and more. Also, I think if you're feeling the lack of motivation and also some depressive symptoms, even if this was before COVID and now it's getting worse because of COVID, I would make sure to definitely talk to a healthcare professional. You can call your regular doctor. You can go on therapy for telehealth, because I'm doing all my telehealth sessions now. And I think it's so important not to isolate. Make sure you're reaching out to people. Make sure you're having a community and someone to talk to, because this is not something that we're supposed to suffer alone and to isolate. We really need to be reaching out to people, listening to different podcasts, watching different live streaming, a lot of positive affirmations, because I think it's so important to be able to keep yourself motivated. And at first you might not feel like there's motivation. It might not seem like there's a big change, but that's okay. The more and more you make it a routine, the more and more you practice it, the more and more you'll start to realize, you know what? I think I actually laughed today. I think I actually felt a bit of joy in my heart. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking from 0 to 90 in one day. We're looking for small increments, small levels of progress. And that's what I think is so important. I know so many times emotionally, unlike physical goals where we can physically say, okay, I've done this, I've accomplished this, and have something physical proof of it. Emotional might be a little bit hard to monitor, to be able to say, okay, this is what my goal is. So make sure, one, you're not being hard on yourself. You're not judging yourself. And don't minimize the small goals that you're doing. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in. And Peter and Deborah. Hi, how are you? So I think it's really important to make sure you have those small goals and then build on. Because the more you start to feel enjoying yourself, or hey, I laughed today at something, or I wasn't depressed for about 20 minutes, I even forgot about that. That is so important. And I think as you build and build, that becomes your new routine. That becomes your new way of being. And it's so important because so many times the depression, the negative thoughts, the isolation, the lack of motivation becomes your new normal. and you get used to it. So stepping out of that, even though that's an uncomfortable feeling, sometimes going out to the unknown and pushing yourself a little bit harder seems even more uncomfortable. So a lot of people will stick with what they know, even though it's not healthy for them and they're not happy with it. So that's why I think it's so important to try small new steps. Even if it might be talking to someone, calling an old friend, texting someone, reaching out to any of these Facebook Live groups, any type of different media groups or blogging, just so you have that contact with somebody else and just to be able to check in, and also so you can start to monitor that you have new things coming into your life. Because so many times when people are stuck at home, they're isolating, they're not contacting other people, they don't have a lot of different experiences that they can talk about, they start to feel down on themselves. So I think that's what it's so important. Maybe learn something, a new language. Go to an online painting class. If you're comfortable going out in public, if there's things open in your area, reach out and do those type of things. And yes, at first you might not enjoy them. You might feel really not motivated. You might feel judgmental. You might feel like this is harder than staying home. That's normal. But just keep trying to push yourself and keep trying to keep going that further step. Because the more anybody isolates, the more we get stuck in our mind, we just get stuck in that negative monologue. And you really want to make sure, what is that negative monologue that you're running in your head? And make sure you're aware of it. Because so many times it just goes and goes, and we don't realize we're speaking to ourselves that way. So I think it's so important to, one, reach out so you're exposed to new things, things to excite you, for you to talk about or to look forward to. But also catch your thoughts and how you speak to yourself. And try to, if you start to say one or two negative things to yourself or about the world or about your day, add two positive things for that. Even if you don't believe it right away, that's okay. Like anything, it takes practice. It took a long time to build up those negative thoughts. It took a long time to build up those negative feelings. We can't just rip them away. We have to start slowly introducing healthier ways, positive ways, as we start removing all of the negativity. So that's what's really important. We don't want to leave you without any coping skills. So always make sure you keep adding the positives. And if it doesn't feel like you're 100% in it, or you don't really believe it, that's normal too. It takes time to build it up. It takes time to start saying, you know what, I really feel that. The more you speak to yourself, important that if you're going to speak negative, also speak very positive, and make sure the positive voice is a lot stronger than the negative one, and keep that going for a while. And I know during COVID, it's been a long time now, almost a year, and it's hard to get excited. It's sometimes hard to be motivated, but just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep trying, and knowing that we're all in this together and we're all going to get through it on the other side. And we have so much to look forward to and so much to be hopeful for, and just stick through it. Again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for writing in all your letters. Please keep writing in all the questions. I'll be doing one question a time at Facebook Live. I can also do it on the Alexa show. If you want your name mentioned, I can mention it. If not, just like tonight's viewer, I just read the question. It's up to you. Everyone can remain confidential, and I don't have to say anybody's names. But please, let's keep these discussions going. Let's keep this dialogue open. I think it's so important that we have contact with each other, that we're talking, and that there's communication, and that nobody is alone. Again, everyone, thank you so much. Hi, Deborah, thanks. Please, everyone, keep reaching out, keep supporting us, and keep being there, all right? Everyone, have a good night, and God bless. I'll see you next Sunday at 6 o'clock.